Getting ready to go live. I'm waiting on Instagram right now. Instagram or Twitter. I can't figure it out.
Yeah. You know, Gene, I'm really thankful to have this opportunity, man, because no, seriously, Gene, no, this is serious, man. I wanted to talk about this because there was an interview that I did back in the early 2000s. It was for Jackie, was it HBO? I think it was for HBO. Anyway, at the beginning of that, it was for The Perfect Upset was what it was. I don't know if you've seen that, Chuck. But they started that show with a soundbite that was not part of the interview that really offended a bunch of Villanova guys. You know, Dwayne and I were close friends, you know, from, you know, the CBA, and we had our rookie season together. He hasn't spoken to me since then. And, really? But as my wife is my witness, she was at the interview. It started out, I was joking, after the interview was over, the guys were, you know, wrapping things up. And they were like, you know, what you guys really think about losing that game, man? And I was like, well, you know, we kind of joked in the locker room that, you know, those guys must have made a deal with the devil. And they recorded it. And they put my picture up there and they played it at the beginning of the program. And a lot of people took offense to that. So I hope you reach out to your guys, man. Dwayne knows how I feel about him, and I have nothing but the highest respect for all you guys.
I've never heard a bad word from any of those guys, and we're in touch. We're very, very close. We're in touch weekly, pretty much.
Okay, you know? Okay, because you know Dwayne sent me a not nice text, but
yeah,
I knew he was a little bit taken aback by it. But Dwayne knows me better than anybody.
Yeah.
Known that there's some.
Well, that's a perfect way to start the show.
Yeah.
This is Hoya Locker Room. This is episode 25. I have Chuck Everson from the Villanova Wildcats. Chuck, you were 82 through 86, correct?
Yep, that's right, Gene. Yep.
And then Billy Martin, Georgetown Hoyas, 81 through 85. Two illustrious programs. I don't think this has been done before, where we've actually sat down the two franchises, the two brands, and actually talked about it. But for starters, I just want to say happy birthday to Billy Martin's wife, Jackie. And I want to apologize to Chuck's wife, Kathy. Is it Kathy or Kathleen?
Kathy, yep.
Kathy and your daughter, Kathleen, for them having to sit through you talking about this Villanova Georgetown shit again.
Yeah. There's a lot of eye rolling in my house.
So I just want to let them know, we're going to keep this short, as brief as possible, because again, it's Sunday, and I want to thank you both for giving me this opportunity, because again, this is about Hoya pride, it's about Villanova pride, it's about Big East pride. And I think we obviously, as two of the most illustrious franchises in the conference, we have a lot to talk about. And with that, I just want to start with a couple stats. And I don't know if you guys know this, but if you look at the Big East is 41 years old. The Hoyas have been to the NCAA 26 times. Villanova has been to the NCAA 27 times. Georgetown, 4 Final Fours. Villanova, 4 Final Fours. 1 national championship Hoyas, 3 national championships Villanova, 10 regular season titles Georgetown, 10 regular season titles Villanova, 7 tournament champs Georgetown, 5 Villanova. And I guess I want to get both of your feelings about Connecticut coming back into the Big East. That's a segue.
Well, I think it's great that they're back. I like, you know, as I'm talking to two old school guys like myself. So, I mean, I love the old Big East with Connecticut and those teams. I wish Syracuse was back too. I mean, the rivalries and the intensity level of those games, you know, are unmatched, really. So I think it's great for the conference. I think it's great for the two teams involved, the rivalries, and you know. And we'll wait and see. Now it's going to be fun, I think.
Billy?
Well, you know, I didn't even know Connecticut had joined back with the Big East.
Hey, Chuck, get this guy to do this. You don't understand. This is a major feat. This guy, you know, some guys just don't believe in the social media thing. I appreciate you, Chuck. Thank you. But how do you feel about? But just on GP, Billy, how do you feel about it?
Well, I'm excited about it, Gene. You know how much I love the Big East and
Right.
those games and those rivalries. Connecticut has had some great teams too. You know, they got a couple of national championships under their belts.
Yeah.
They got some pedigree. And so, yeah, they need to bring all that back, man. They need to bring it all back. So I'm excited about that.
Cool,
Yeah.
cool. So we're gonna jump right in. Both you guys played for legendary coaches. And both of them were yellers, so to speak.
Two of the best. Two of the best.
Two of the best. You know, Chuck, I was reading the article that was shared by Big East 24/7. Check them out on Twitter. They're
Yep.
legitimate guys. They shared the article when you were first coming to Villanova. And I guess you had worked at the camp. You worked at Rowley's camp.
Yeah.
And it talked about the family atmosphere. Billy, you'll get a kick out of this. Rowley actually asked the other members of the team if they liked the recruit.
That's true.
So Chuck, what was that like? What was that like?
So let's use Billy as an example, right? Let's say Billy comes on a visit, and you remember those days. You know, they give us some stuff to take Billy out. We go have a good time. You know, does he hang with everybody? Is he to himself? What kind of guy is he? How is he going to mesh with everybody? And then usually we have a late practice on Sunday because he kind of knew, you know, we did some things over the weekend. We weren't going to take Billy, to school only. We took him around town and stuff, you know.
He was gonna get a Philly cheese. He was gonna get a Philly cheesesteak.
Philly cheesesteak, yeah, all that stuff. So, but now at practice, he would say, "Okay, Billy Martin, what's the deal?" And guys would be like this or like this. And if you got thumbs down, he stopped recruiting you. You know,
Wow.
It was one of those things, man. When he said it was family, you know, a lot of teams talk that talk and say, "Oh, we're family, we're family." Everybody uses that a lot, but with him, it was really that way. Like to the point where he lived a mile down the block from school, where if you were feeling kind of down or you didn't feel like, you know, you wanted to get away for a little bit, I would literally just walk down, just sit down on the couch and turn the TV on, and Mrs. Mass would walk in and she goes, "Oh, you staying for dinner?" I say, "Yeah, what are we having for dinner?" He goes, "All right, I'll set a plate, no problem."
Did the dude dress up like Santa Claus?
He prior to us getting there, that was like one of the things he did. Yeah. Listen, Gene, it's no BS with this stuff. I mean, right till the day he passed, I mean, we would go down even after he was done with Villanova and everything. A bunch of us would go down to Florida every year around the Super Bowl. And it started out with Brian Harrington and myself, and then Prez started coming, and then the next thing you know, we had 15 guys, and we're all crashed out in his house like a fraternity house. Guys were on air mattresses, and if you had to get up to go to the bathroom in the middle of it, you had to step over 3 guys that was 6'8", you know, trying to get into the bathroom. And we would do that every year until he passed, and then we went back just to see Mrs. Mass. So
This is when he was in South Florida, correct?
Yeah,
Okay.
when he was in South Florida. So it you know, the family thing is that's how it was the whole way through, and to perpetrate that on the recruiting process to make sure that you'd fit in, he had to know that, okay, we were cool with the guy coming in, or, you know, really he's kind of a little different. He's not going to fit in with this group of guys, you know?
Hey, man, if Josh Hart got a thumbs down, they were bringing that motherfucker in. I don't care what you say, Chuck. So, Billy, give me some of those Georgetown warm and fuzzy stories.
Well, you know what, Gene, we weren't that, you know, I can't remember ever having dinner at John's house, you know, even before, during, or after. It wasn't that kind of family environment. It's more work family environment.
We were more dysfunctional family environment. Productive, but
There's some
dysfunctional.
dysfunction. We could go there too, Gene. There's a lot.
We're gonna need you to go there, Chuck.
Yeah, it was a little bit different than the family at Villanova. It was more of a brotherhood thing, you know, comrades in arms. You know, it was more of a, you know, us against them mentality. We were all in it together. John was hard on all of us, and so we kind of banded together to pick each other up, and that was sort of our brotherhood and our motivation. We were just trying to pick each other up because the baddest guy in the room was on everybody, and so we had to stick together. It was a little bit different.
With what Billy just said, Chuck, how how did Villanova, how did Rowley approach playing the Hoyas? Was it a different speech? Was it the same speech? Because that 85 season, you guys had 3 games that were separated by a total of 10 points.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
clearly there was a lot going on there. And I hope you guys can get into some of those matchups. But was it a different speech?
Not really. I mean, prior to the game, if that's what you're talking about, prior to the game, he just emphasized that anybody could beat anybody on one night. It wasn't like we had to play you guys best of 7. It was one game.
Right.
And to play the game not to lose, to play the game to win. Don't play not to lose, which is like, don't be afraid, don't play scared, just go out and play and have fun. And basically that's what he was all about. And because you guys, Bill, you guys had it tough because you got everybody's best effort. I mean, if everybody got amped up to play the Hoyas, I mean, that goes without saying. You guys were so good, and we had so much respect for you guys as a man. But we matched up better with you guys than we did with St. John's because we'd had a tough time with lefties. So Walter gave us a really hard time, and so did Chris. And they beat us. That year they beat us 3 times. We lost. We had 10 losses, and 5 of them were to the number 1 or 2 teams in the country. We lost to you guys and to St. John's. But I mean, as far as that part of it, it was just don't play not to lose, and anybody can beat anybody on one night, and that's what that was about when we went in.
Billy, what the hell was going on in that Hoya locker room?
Well, I'm just going to tell you, Gene, Ed and Gary and Dwayne, we played against each other in high school. And then all 4 years together, we were the same class and everything. And we had played against each other so many times.
Yeah.
They knew us. They knew our favorite moves. Our press didn't affect them the same way it affected other teams. Both games we won that year were very close games. One of them went to overtime, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
So they were the last team we wanted to see in the Final Four. St. John's, we loved playing St. John's. We would just throttle them. But, playing against Villanova, it was like looking in a mirror. When I played against Harold Presley, and Presley was, he was a little bit better ball handling than I was, but we pretty much played the same game, around the basket, 10, 15 feet, rebound. And he was tough offensively and defensively. And Ed knew Pat as well as any player in the country. He had been playing against Pat, nearly his whole life. And so they weren't intimidated. And it was always tough. And so they were the last team we wanted to play.
Right.
Yeah.
That season in the Big East clearly was a historic season because we had 3 teams in the Final Four. What was it like game in and game out preparing? Like, was it just a slugfest? Was it like you were always on your A game? And obviously I have something to base this on, but that 85 season was crazy.
Well, for us, Gene, it was our back-to-back, our chance to have back-to-back. And so we came in focused because we felt like we could get this thing done. And so, yeah, every game, we lost a couple early, and then all of a sudden we locked in and won about 20 straight.
Right.
And we were rolling going into the Final Four. We were really confident. We just weren't happy about having to play Villanova in the final because they have our number. They've had it for a long time.
What year was Billy? What year was the Princeton game? Was that the same year? The Princeton game when or was that much later? You remember when Big Ralph was it Big Ralph that had the good game against Princeton? I might be dating myself.
Yeah, I can't.
I might be dating myself.
We did have I remember playing Princeton a couple of times.
No bite. Sorry for that sidebar.
Yeah.
So Chuck, for you guys, what was that 85 season like?
Well, first of all, every game was a war. Everything was a battle. I mean, there was no nights off in the Big East, man. And it's not like now where, I don't want to use the word soft the way these guys are, but if you didn't go hard, you should go home. I mean, back in the day, I mean, we knew if we were playing the Hoyas, it was going to be a very physical game. You guys were very defensive orientated and got after it all the time. I don't remember playing another team in all the years that I've been playing that played as hard as you guys did, And so you had to be you had to be at your absolute best just to hope to compete with you guys, especially like for me with Patrick, And so it was tough. And every night was like that, because then you turn around and every Big East team back then had one or two real studs,
Mm-hmm.
Chris, I mentioned Chris and Walton. Then you turn around, we got to go play Pearl. Then we turn around, we got to play you guys. Then, okay, now you come back and you got, even Connecticut back then had Earl Kelly and, you go down, Otis Thorpe with Providence and on and on and on, so.
I'm going to digress for a second. So I'm obviously I'm a year ahead of you, Billy, and then Chuck, I think of 2 years ahead of you. My coming out party as a freshman was against Villanova when you had Stuart Granger and John Pannone. And Billy, when I say my coming out party, I had 0 points, 5 steals, 1 assist.
I remember this game, I think I remember this game.
I mean, Chuck, literally, I had a picture in the Post, star on the rise. I don't know who the hell they were talking about.
Listen, defensively, and I told you this before, Gene. Whoever knew that they were being guarded by you, they would be like, okay, I guess I'm going to get a lot of assists because I ain't scoring no points.
Or I'm going to get fouled. One of the other. But I just mentioned that because I just think Georgetown and Villanova, similar campuses, similar type of flows. Your style obviously was different than Georgetown's style. Yeah. How can you compare and contrast the style Nova played when you were there to what they're playing now? And granted, we know the game has changed immensely.
Yeah, it's a totally different.
It's a totally different game.
If you
mental.
That championship game was the last game played without a shot clock. That worked in our favor.
Yeah.
So I mean, back then we didn't rely on the three like they do now. In fact, there was no 3-point line. They were just testing it out. In certain conferences, we went inside out. We looked to get the ball into Eddie and then kick out to the shooters and stuff like that. Whereas now they're so red. They drill so much on drive and kick, and they don't really even use the 5. Like I don't even think they number the guys like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They just got 5 players. They don't care how big they are or anything, whereas back then we had size. Georgetown had a lot of size. St. John's had Jeff Allen and Billy Winnington. Everybody had bigs, but now that's really not the case,
So Billy, same question for you, Billy, but I just want you to know Villanova has beaten us 11 of the last 12 times, Congress.
Well, thanks, Gene. Listen, the biggest difference I see in the way we play now, and maybe it's changed some since Pat's become the coach, but we were 84 feet, full court pressure, and teams knew that coming in, they're going to come with their pressure defense, and it was more man to man and not a lot of zone. Whereas now I don't see all the man-to-man, and now they're more free offensively than they've been, way more free. I mean, John used to scream at us if we didn't make 5 passes before a shot, and now because the kids are so skilled, you can get a big guy that can get a rebound, go to the length of the court, pull up and shoot a 3, or take it to the cup, and nobody's going to say anything because that's just the way the game is played. But the kids now are just so much more skilled. I can't imagine with my game back then, with my only being allowed to take 2 dribbles, being able to play in today's game, where everybody can handle the ball and shoot the 3. So that's the biggest difference.
I mean, I look at the game now, and I almost think that I would certainly be playing more man to man, right? Because if it's a kick and drive and kick, like get in front of somebody, and then defensive schemes have not kept up with the offensive schemes.
Yeah.
And not to say that, I remember we had the boxing one on Chris Mons, and that used to be some gimmick shit, but what else you gonna do with that dude?
Yeah.
Right? But yeah,
it's hard though defensively to like jump to the ball so that, everybody skip passes now too. And now you can't get out to close out on a shooter as like you could back then.
But it's almost like we used to have a defense, Chuck, called point, where literally it was a man-to-man zone. So it was a matchup zone. And for lack of a better argument, it's just one of those things where if we know they're skip passing and I'm the guy on the skip side, then that's my job. It's my job to get to that shooter. I just don't think the defensive schemes have evolved. It's just purely an offensive game. And you would have thought college would have maintained some integrity and kept that in play, but obviously it's a much more exciting game to watch. Yeah. Chuck, I was looking for a picture, a photo that I had seen when Rollie was dead in your face, at your navel, but he was on you. Yeah. What was it like when Rollie got fired up and he lasered in on someone?
Oh, it was unbelievable. It was unbearable.
He started, Billy.
I'm still in shock. Yeah, right. I mean, he was a fiery guy, and I think that had to do with his heritage a little bit. He got a little fired up, and the good thing about him was, though, I mean, he would give it to you, but good. And then, later on or the next day, I'd get a hug and say, all right, let's go get him today. I mean, it was, and individually, like, I'll tell you this, like Jensen struggled a little bit, with internally, could I do this or can I do this? Or, we all are there at some point in time during the career. Can I continue doing what I'm doing, or should I go a different way? And, he took him aside and had a conversation with him. And that's when he became Harold Jensen, and he took that lesson that he got from coach into business and was very, very successful in business because he went from being cautious all the time to just going for it. And all of a sudden, everything kind of went his way. So, but it was crazy because he would do stuff like if he was mad at Ed, he would punch me in the chest. He goes, "Come on, Everson, get him." I'm like, I didn't do it. He did.
That sounds familiar.
So it was crazy. And he had these different kind of thing, like I'll give it to you like this, Gene, like you'll appreciate this as a player. Like, let's say we were coming up on a holiday weekend. It was going to be the last time you were going to get a break. Right. So we would practice early on a Friday morning, okay, and wouldn't have to be back to campus till 6 o'clock practice Sunday night. And he would say, "I'm giving you 3 days off." And everybody, by 3 days, I got to be back here on Sunday. How is that 3 days? He goes, "Well, you got off all day Friday, all day Saturday, and you're off all day on Sunday. You don't have to be here till Sunday night. That's 3 days." So, his math was a little bit screwy.
That's that coach's math.
That's right.
That's that coach's math. Billy, similar question for you, but I want to focus on your senior year, because your senior year was one for the books, one for the ages. What was it like? What was different your senior year in terms of how you and coach interacted?
As you know, my junior year, Gene, I spent most in the doghouse. I don't know if you remember,
I was bringing you treats. I mean,
he saw something in me that he wanted to get out of me that year. And it wasn't my toughest year at Georgia. I mean, just, some practices I couldn't do anything right. And he pushed me and he pushed me. And he kept me pissed off. And when I came back from my senior year, I don't know that he said one cross word to me the whole year. He started talking to me about, investing stocks and being smart with my money and what I'm going to do, when I'm done. I mean, it's like the whole relationship changed. But my senior year was like a cakewalk compared to my junior year.
It showed statistically, right? It definitely showed. It definitely showed. I mentioned how similar I felt that the campuses were, the campus life. You guys are in Philly. We're right down I-95 in DC. Chuck, this is for you. When we played you guys in, I want to say it was 83 or 84, and the infamous banner was at the Palestra.
Yep.
Did Rowley address that? Did the university address that? How did the team feel about that? I was always interested as a player because you saw Big John's reaction.
Oh yeah.
How did you? How did you guys feel?
Well, listen, as now you've seen Philadelphia fans the way they are. Philadelphia fans are Philadelphia fans. They're out of their minds. They're never happy, and they always have something to say about everybody. There was banners. That game that you're talking about was at the Palestra.
Yes.
And they always did that at that particular building. They didn't do that if we played at home on campus. They didn't do that if we played at the Spectrum. That was always done there at the Palestra. And it was kind of a thing to get on, to kind of throw the best player on the other team off his game, you know. But us as collectively were pissed because not only wasn't it right, but the main thing was I was pissed in particular. I'm like, you're just getting this man angry. I said, I got to go out and guard this guy. I said, leave him alone. He's already great. He doesn't need any help from you guys making him even better, you know.
Right.
But at that time, to be 100% honest with you, nobody really addressed anything and stuff like that. And it really should have been, because there was some really terrible signs, you know. The one that you're referring to is bad enough, but there were other ones too. And I've run into Patrick over the years, like I've run into a bunch of the guys. And I told him, I said, even Bill, you mentioned the HBO thing, right?
Yeah.
So they ask you questions and they're trying to lead you down a path. So I really understand what you were saying, about the devil comment, because they try to lead you down that path that I'm not going down that path. You know what I mean? Like, what do you see when you look at Patrick? What do you think of? I said, a great warrior that I have the most, that guy goes out and plays his heart out no matter what the circumstance is, and got the most out of whatever God gave him his natural ability, and, you, like I said to him myself, I said, like I've mentioned it before, you had to be at your best. I thanked them for making me better, because if when I played against him, you had to be absolutely on top of your game. You couldn't be focused on anything else, because if you were dead. You just to hope to have a chance to compete with them, you had to be at your absolute best all the time. And for me to say that about another player, that's about the highest compliment you can give somebody, really. If you thank you for making me better, because I had to really prepare to play you.
Wow.
Yeah. Billy,
Yeah.
I don't remember, and you played more than me, so coach talked to you more. I don't remember the exact words or the sentiments that he expressed at that time. Do you? During that game?
Oh, you mean during that game?
During that game when we
I
pulled
don't.
us off the court.
I don't remember exactly what was said. I do remember how offended we were, and proud of him for doing what he did. I do remember that, because I don't know, it just made us feel like he really cared, that it wasn't just about basketball.
And just so you guys know, I bring that question up because obviously the times that we're in now, but also if I had to think of two coaches that I know would go up in those stands or would remove their teams from the court, it would be those two guys. Mm-hmm. I always had that feeling, but Rolly never said a word to me. Yep. But I always had the feeling of how he took care of his teams. He was that way. And I think, Big John being, or Big Coach as I like to call him now, because that's what the young people call him. I think Big Coach was always front and center. And that initial 8 or 7 Big East coaches were all in it of themselves characters. And they ushered in a whole new wave of college basketball. So I think we all have that to kind of always, that's a special thing. We're part of something really special. For both of you, proudest moment individually in the Big East, then obviously as a team outside of the 85 game, Chuck, we don't really want to go there much longer. I'm already getting hate mail for having you on, Chuck. But I just got to say, you're online, you're front and center. You're one of the few Big East guys that, I can actually reach out and, have a rival conversation with. and you actually got Billy Martin to come on. But yeah, I mean, if you guys can speak to like a moment that maybe fans don't know about that was special, it could be off the court, on the court. I think it'd be kind of cool.
You want to go first, Bill?
Well, yeah, I tell you what, there's so many moments, but
Well, you can talk about the time against Brigham Young when I got the steal and you had the reverse backward dunk. You can talk about.
I wanted to go deeper than that. Not talk about myself.
You want to go deeper.
No, one of the things I remember that stands out in my mind was the end of the 81-82 championship game after we had a chance to win, and we turned the ball over, and Fred was coming off the court, and John went up to him, just called him over, and just gave him a really big hug. And it almost brought a tear to my eye. I didn't cry, though. I'm glad I didn't, though.
Rodney did. That's okay. Rodney did.
Yeah,
Rodney cried.
Yeah, that was cool. But yeah, I remember that moment because it was almost like a father, and calling his son over, because Fred felt he had to feel awful, and it was at that moment is probably the one thing he needed was a nice hug. And for some reason, that moment stands out as one of the brightest shining moments in my career. And that was early in my career.
Early in your career.
Now, I will say there is, in 1985, after the season, there was a moment when I was a rookie with the Indiana Pacers. And, Dwayne and I were rookie together. We were rookies together and we were friends. And it was one of our first practices. And I'm in there and I'm changing my clothes. And Dwayne calls over to me, "Hey, Billy, April Fools." It was on April Fools. And I looked at Dwayne, and I'm like, anyway, I had to hear that my whole rookie year.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, that stood out.
All right, Chuck.
I think more off the court than on the court. I mean, I had a good game at the Spectrum against Patrick, my junior year, I think it was. That was memorable, but mostly off the court and just being with these guys still today. Coach Mass kind of made me the social director, if you will, or it's like I'm the SID of the 85 team,
Hey, Chuck, it's continued. You're the guy.
It's 35 years where literally, whenever the Big East is on and the game of the week is on or whatever, there's 19 of us on a text thread and we're going back and forth. What is Jay thinking about on this move, or why did he put this kid in, or what, and I'm talking about not just the guys on the team, like the managers, the trainer, the SID, they're all on this thing, and we're so close. And like I was alluding to it before about going down to Florida, those times just sitting around in the backyard, guys drinking wine or eating pasta, or a couple of guys smoking cigars, whatever, just kicking back with coach and telling war stories, and just the laughs and the and the camaraderie from that group. And even, as even the guys that played before, like I talk with Stu, you mentioned Stu and John. I talk with those guys. I talk with Moquin, all those guys are all part of it. And, when it started, Coach had this thing, he laid the foundation, the groundwork, and Jay is just taking it to another level. Like an example, like Coach would bring guys back that played for him, and it was kind of cool to get their perspective, so I can ask somebody advice, like, how do I deal with this guy on this or that,
Mm-hmm.
But then when Jay came in, I'm talking to Paul Arizin before he passed at an event, and he's telling me about the night that Wilt scored 100, because he got 16. He was second high scorer in the game. You know what I mean? It's stuff like that, which is kind of cool. And now over the last two championship teams, 16 and 18, those kids all know us, and they see us, and they, we're kind of like big uncles to them. You know what I mean? So it's kind of cool in that regard. They have everybody back in August, like the first Monday in August, they have a golf outing. We the last time we did it, obviously this year with COVID we couldn't do it, but last year when we did it, we had over 100 former players come back, They played golf, and then the guys that are currently playing in the league and overseas and stuff played the current team in a scrimmage. We had a little cocktail party and dinner, and it was a whole afternoon of that kind of stuff. This year, he did a Zoom call like this with 100 guys. So that part of it to me it's much better. The basketball relationship and everything was about that much of the whole relationship with Rolly and with the program.
So Billy, you and I both sitting over there nodding our heads. And the reason why we're nodding our heads, Chuck, is that we're work in progress. Our bond is unbreakable.
Yeah.
But we need to listen, right? We need action plans. And we obviously, big coach passed away this year.
Yeah.
And if there's anything you need to call a call to action, that's been kind of a call to action for us. And I really didn't, I wasn't really anticipating you sharing that love, that Villanova love, but I really appreciate it because, we have the same love, but we need to get on our giddy up. Billy, you want to piggyback off that or just the Mohawks looking fresh, though, I can tell you that.
Well, you know what? That reminds me of something. I want to pick it out for you, Jay. Yeah.
But any commentary on because I love what he said, and maybe because I'm older now. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been my experience. I've been away from the program. I didn't stay close with the program, but I have kept in touch with some of the guys. And whenever I go back, for example, most recently they came here to Illinois to play the University of Illinois, and I went to the game. They sat me behind the bench, and everyone in the program. I met the athletic director, the new Mary Fenlon, I forget what her name was, the academic coordinator, all the coaches. Pat Jr. sat with me, was swapping stories. Anytime I go around the program, they make me feel like royalty. And G, you know as well as anybody, I'm not to reach out to some one person. But anytime I go around this program, it's like yesterday. They make me feel like I'm still a part of the program. And I have gone back to some of the functions, and it's the same experience all the time. And I can't be there for everything, but if they were to have a golf outing, I might go.
I got to tell you, I mean, Jay is exceptional at making everybody feel welcome and comfortable, and to that point, like I worked for Sunoco for a long time, and they were based in Philadelphia. So if I had a meeting on a Thursday, Wednesday, I'd show up at school and show up at practice, just unannounced, just walk in. A manager would come over, hand me a bottle of water. Another guy would bring me to a chair right on the sideline. Jay would bring us out, whoever it was, not just me, anybody that came in, any alums that come in. Yeah. And they bring you in the huddle. You're expected to be part of the huddle. The kids all come over and say hello to you at some point in time during practice when they're getting the water. Hey, thanks for coming to see us play. Hey, because he's constantly talking about the history, and it was our 100th year of basketball this year. And we kind of got cut off because he was going to have a big party celebrating that, but didn't get to do it with everything that's going on. But he's excellent. And I mean, excellent at that. Like I would give you an example, like the last summer jam that coach was able to go to before he passed. So I said to him, hey, you got to make sure you're going. I got all the guys coming. I called everybody and said, look, this could be his last one.
You really are the social director.
I am. Yeah. Really and so what happened was he wanted Aaron Howard to come down because he hadn't seen Aaron since he left school, basically.
Wow. That's like 83 or something like that, Aaron Howard?
Yeah, he was before me. He might have been 81.
81, yeah. I think I got him 1 year.
So he says to me, look, so I'm calling Aaron. I can't get him. I call Eddie. I go, call your boy and just tell him to call me. So Aaron calls me. He's all twisted because he can't get tickets for Villanova games. He had to go to Creighton to get a ticket for a Nova. I said, Aaron, have you ever stopped to ask anybody how Jay's process works? He goes, no. He goes, okay, let me explain it to you. I explained it to him. I said, look, you need to show up at this thing. The old man's asking for you, you know, and I don't know what's, you know. So he comes down. So I make sure I tell Jay, hey, here's the deal. This guy's not feeling the love. He thinks that, you know, he's got to call the opposing team to get tickets. He goes, you know, that's not the case. I said, yeah, I know, but you know. So Jay gets him in the huddle, like, and there's a bunch of alums there. It's not just me and him, you know. And he starts talking about telling the team, hey, we got great players here, like Aaron Howard, like the. So Aaron looks at me. I go, see, I go, and you walk out of there, you go there, and you go, hey, thanks for coming in. Here's a T-shirt, or here's you know a sweatshirt, or you know whatever. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I'm like, it's you know. Jay really does a really, really good job of keeping that all, and that's where it starts. It starts from the top down, you know.
I agree. I and Billy, you can jump in at any time. We had we've had similar events over the years.
Right.
I think our coach, obviously, his path was different than Rowley, especially post career. Yeah, I just feel like we're cut a certain way, and it's almost, I hate to always make references to the military, because I'm the last person that would ever have gone to the military. Just not my, you know, I'm not a fighter.
Right.
I'm a hacker, but I'm not a fighter. But it's just one of those things. I think, you know, clearly we have the love for each other, but it was almost like we had that deflated ball on the desk. And it was one of those things where when you leave here, we expect you to shine, we expect you to do well, and check back in on us. Like, once you do your time, like, you can check back in, but don't be hovering around. I mean, when you said you walked into practice unannounced,
I was going.
Chuck,
yeah.
We used to have practices and the cracks in the doorway were taped so no one could look in.
Oh my God. Yeah. No,
So it was a whole different mentality, but I love what you guys have going on, and not from a standpoint of envy, but just, I know our deal is different, but we're on the same level. And I hope as in terms of the Big East in total, right?
Right.
Maybe there's something we'll do because the Big East is 41 years old. Maybe for 45 or something, we'll do something collectively.
Yeah, well, we talked about that with Troy Bowers doing something in New York City. I think you were going to be part of that, if I remember correctly, and it just fell apart because you couldn't get it. Because there's that same bond brotherhood. If you played in the Big East back in the 80s, when it was really the Big East, I mean, you know, it's so funny with the advent of Facebook and social media.
It should be easier.
I've been in contact with so many guys, and you know, Demetrius passed away, Demetrius Gore. So I've been talking with Keith Armstrong and Joey David from those teams, and hey man, sorry about your brother, and you know, all that kind of stuff. And it really, everybody has the same respect for each other because we all went through the same thing, just different branches of it: the Georgetown branch, the St. John's branch, the Nova branch. You know. But you mentioned the military, so I have a question for you. You got to explain something to me, because when we go to the Big East tournament, okay, and we go to that luncheon, you guys had, I mean, we had two guys at each table from every team, and everybody's chatting it up, and the two Georgetown guys are not allowed to even look up. Was it? I mean,
you gotta talk to Billy. You gotta talk to Billy about that. I wasn't allowed to go to any luncheons.
Really?
You gotta talk to Billy about that.
And like when you guys played like in the tournament and stuff, you stayed, like, how difficult was that for you, Bill? Like, I think you stayed in Louisville for the Lexington, when we were in Lexington, right?
Yeah.
How
John,
tough is that?
those trips were not, you know, for fun or pleasure. You know, it was a business trip, and he didn't want us to be a part of the hoopla. He just wanted us to be focused on what we have to do, and that was it. It was just strictly business. It was like that everywhere. We never stayed in the same city where we played. Even for the, you know, we played in North Carolina, you know, in New Orleans. We stayed in Biloxi, Mississippi for that game. Yeah, we were in Biloxi. So it was just his way of keeping us focused and keeping us out of trouble because, you know, when there's no temptation, and you're out in the middle of nowhere, you're less likely to get in trouble and be distracted. And so that was his thing.
And I'll piggyback on that, Chuck. Big John was a product of, the 60s, right? I mean, he got to Georgetown in 72. There was a banner in the gym, in-flop must go. So for him, the mentality of us against the world, he really felt like he didn't have any options. Right. And his margin of error was really, really small. What I found interesting, and because he was an extremely complicated, complex dude, but as direct as they come.
Oh yeah.
But it was just one of those deals where, I remember us getting in a few fights, and I say a few fights. I use that term gingerly. Right. And coming in the locker room, and you're waiting to get cursed out. Like you're waiting to, because we're acting out of pocket. We're proving all of the writers correct. And Big John would literally say, if we have to fight our way to New Orleans or fight our way to, that's what we're gonna do. So it was just one of those deals where he built this he just built this collective effort where we just felt as if we played to beat the Chief. Like we always felt, and that made us, that made everybody chippy. That made you chippy. Yep. So it's almost like you bought into it. You bought in, you believed, and when you're successful, it's kind of hard to argue with it.
That being said, do you think Patrick now is looking for his edge as a head coach with these kids from this era?
Great question. I'll let you take that first, Billy. Great question.
Well, I thought last year when they had a little incident with some of the players, and those players were gone, there was no discussion about it. I thought it was the right thing, even though he may have, lessened the talent on his team. But those guys were bringing down the image of the program and all the players around him. And so, I applauded him for that. And that reminded me of something that John would do. I mean, it was, you can't put up with the nonsense. You can't have one person bring down the whole program or one or two guys, because we got rid of guys, really, really talented guys that, he just didn't want to be around. He didn't want them around his program. And I see Pat doing the same thing. And I see him in the games, when they all huddle around him, I see him, screaming and yelling and pointing at people and getting right in their face. And the kids respond. They respond. And so, I think he is trying to find his edge, as a coach. But
I give him credit because it seems that all the jobs are going to the point guards. The big guys don't get their shot.
Well, it's true. It's true.
So I'm rooting for them and St. John's, to be good, because I think it's good for the conference. If Georgetown and St. John's are at the height of their, games again, the whole conference as a whole will be much better. Plus, he had a great recruiting class. One kid. It's a kid from my high school. This kid, wow. Jordan Riley.
Riley.
You're gonna like watching him. Remember that name, because that guy is a very, very athletic kid. He doesn't even know how good he is yet.
I'm going to go back to a little bit what you were asking, Chuck, and I think about it this way: when Jay replaced Rowley, how do you freaking replace a legend? Right? So when I think about Patrick at Georgetown, I'm thinking about, I want Patrick to coach as close to the way he played as possible. Now, how does he replace, JT3, but we're really talking about big coach.
Right. Same between the other two guys.
Yeah, and somebody that was mad influential, right? Like somebody that was, important to you. And I can only remember Patrick coming in Billy's class as a freshman and how unbridled this dude was. How just an avatar, right? And if he could translate that to coaching, like I don't want like when Billy when Billy was talking about him in the huddle and he's swearing and he didn't necessarily play that way, but he played that way, but that didn't come out of his mouth. He was the most
it's the intensity level.
He was the most supportive superstar I've ever been around. Mm-hmm. And I haven't been around that many. But if you watch film, if somebody else does something well, he's the first person to give him a high five. And you know, Billy real smooth when he play. Billy will dunk on somebody and walk away. And Patrick is like this, give me the five, give me the five. So if he could take that energy and translate that to the team or translate that to coaching, I think he'll be a very effective coach.
Yeah,
very effective coach.
I agree.
But speaking of which, we're predicted to finish last in the Big East. And I find no consolation in that. I don't know how that's possible. And I have to think, Billy, help me out here. I have to think that's a problem for Patrick. Like that bothers him.
Oh yeah, I promise you it bothers him. And I promise you he's doing everything he can to not let that happen. You know, because Pat's very good at shutting out the noise and focusing on the task at hand. That's always been one of his strengths as well. He won't be deterred. And Gene, you know as well as I do, it's just a question of having the right talent, the right chemistry, and sometimes it takes time. And you know, last year I thought he got the most out of the guys that he had. He lost some people, but at the end of the year they were playing their best basketball. And so it's just a question of, you know, can he get the recruits? Can guys continue to develop? Because that's a big part of college. I think that's one of the great things that Jay's done at Villanova. This guy stayed for 3 or 4 years. And then after the fourth, you realize, man, this is an NBA player. Mm-hmm. And then they go on, they play in the NBA for years and years. But he develops the talent. And that's key in college because, you know, the one and dones, they're going to be gone. It's the guys, the other guys. You know, can you develop them and, you know, in your program, get them to play together? And you know, and that's the challenge for Pat. Because, you know, he's not going to have a Patrick Ewing for 4 years.
No, never again.
And so it's just a question of, can you get the guys and create an environment where they hang around for 4 years and develop and get better.
And that's the culture. That's getting not only your parents to buy in, but your AAU coaches, your high school coaches, the guys that you hang out with, your entourage or whatever you got going on. You know, that's getting everybody to buy in. And that's why, like, you hear the phrase, he wrote a book called Attitude. That's what they say in the huddle when they break the huddle, attitude, every single time. And it's stitched in the back of their jerseys. You know, on the tongues of their sneakers, on the inside, it says humble and hungry. They wear these bracelets that say attitude and humble and hungry. Everywhere in the gym, it says attitude. When they go on the road, the managers put athletic tape over the door that says attitude. They have to touch it before they go out the door. You know, it's all part of the culture and how he wants to present the program to everybody, you know, to see what's going on. And that's why it's so important to bring the alums back, because the guys on the team need to know that they have support from the guys that were where they were years and years ago, you know, and it's all comes full circle, you know, and that's what he does.
All right, fellas, 1 hour in the bank. I didn't want to go over an hour. I want to thank you both for your time on a Sunday. Again, Chuck, I apologize to your wife and daughter for them having to go through this again. Happy
Luckily
birthday
they're not home. They went shopping.
Oh, but you know, this will be recorded, so you can pull it. You can send it to them in the link just to aggravate them. But Billy, happy birthday to the wifey over there. Anything else you guys want to share before we break? But I do want to thank you both on a Sunday, man. I really do.
I want to say something, Chuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chuck.
Yeah, I'm here.
Dwayne, give me a call, man. He's still my boy. D-Train's still my boy, man.
I will.
We need to talk about this, man. That was my dude. We won a CBA championship together. We had a lot of fun, you know.
Did you guys go on the Big East trip together or no? You didn't do that?
No. But we spent our whole rookie year together. We were thick as thieves, man. And I
know how he is. Yep.
When it was 2 years into our career, we were both playing the CBA. I was playing in Columbus on one of the worst teams in the league, and couldn't wait to get out of there. And Dwayne called me and asked me if I'd like to come play with him in lacrosse for Flip Saunders. We ended up winning the CBA championship.
Wow.
One of the best seasons of my career. And
Villanova and Georgetown together.
I miss my dude, man. And so when you talk to him, tell him, my number hasn't changed. I've had the same number for 22 years.
Okay.
Longer than that.
I'll call him as soon as we're done with this. I'll give him a call.
All right, man.
And
Chuck,
listen, Gene, I got to tell you, I appreciate very much you letting me into the sanctity of the Hoya locker room, letting the bad guys in, So, I mean, I think it was great. I think, I watch your podcast.
whatever this is.
I watch it from time to time. I enjoyed the one with the managers because it was behind the scenes and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I think if you can get more guys on from different teams, I think it would be a really unique perspective. I mean, here's the challenge to you. Okay. If you get my man, Mike Graham on, okay, with my man, Andre Hawkins, I think that would be a hell of a
Wow.
Because Mike is we're playing, I tell you, we were playing with Billy. So I walk in, they tell me, all right, you're in room 1, 2, 3. I said, okay. I come walking in, Mike's laid out on the bed. I go, oh no. Right? Mike's laying there. I'm going, are you kidding me? I said, this guy from Georgetown who's killing everybody, I got to live with this guy now. So he looks at me, and he says, hey, Chuck, you see that cologne on the dresser? I said, yeah. He goes, if you use it, do me a favor, just put it back because I like to keep it in order. I go, are you the same guy from Georgetown? He goes, yeah. I go, I always thought you were an asshole. He goes, no, I get that a lot. I'm a good guy. And we've been friends ever since, man.
Oh, well, Chuck, I think we may need to revisit with Troy.
Yeah,
about some Big East, whatever.
Yeah, that would be a lot. How much fun would that be, man?
Oh my God. I mean, I'm sure throats would be hurting from just laughter, man.
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
But this has been really cool, man. And Chuck, you might get an invite back.
Okay.
You might get an invite back. Billy, we got you scheduled we may have you scheduled with Mike Graham.
That would be great.
That would be fun.
But I want to thank both you guys, and Hoya salute, Villanova salute, Chuck, and you guys be safe, and best to you and your families.
All right.
Thanks, guys. Great seeing you guys. Great catching up.
All
right. Take care.
Yep.